We've learned enough PHP by this point that we are able to build dynamic websites. We're able to have links that go from one page to another, that pull down information. We're able to have forms and send that information to another page and redisplay that information or work with it. But in order to have a really full-featured application, we're going to need to incorporate a database here. And databases are just going to take our application leaps and bounds above where it could be on its own. We're going to be able to store a lot of information in the database, search through it, edit it, update it, keep it there for long periods of time. Many users can access it at once. There's so many benefits to using a database. But before we do, we need to learn some basics of MySQL or MySQL. And in this chapter, I'm going to try and give you those basics. I'm going to start out by walking you through some of the basic commands, and then we'll actually get our hands dirty and learn to use them. The first term that I want to expose you to is CRUD. CRUD is an acronym, and it stands for Create, Read, Update, and Delete. And those are the basic operations that we perform with databases. We create records in the database, we read records back from the database, we update a record in the database with new information, or we delete it completely. And those are the four basic things that we're going to be learning how to do: create, read, update, and delete. Let's take a look at the first one now. I'm not going to go with create. I'm going to start with read. And that is an SQL select statement or SQL select. And the statement is going to always have a syntax that looks very similar to this. Now, it may be all stretched out in one line, or it may be broken up. White space isn't going to be particularly significant. But the format is that we are going to select something from a table. And I have an asterisk there. Asterisk means select everything from the table. Now, I could specify fields, and we'll see how to do that later on. I could tell it I only want certain bits of information back. But for now, we're going to say select everything from a table, and that'll be the table name. We'll need to create that table, of course, where the column that we're looking for is equal to some text. So let's imagine that that's where first name equals and then someone's first name. And that's going to be in quotes because it's a string. Then we're going to take all of those results and we're going to order them by, and we can have different columns which decide how we order it. So we could have by, last name, and first name, and then ASC stands for ascending. We could also have DESC for descending. The overall idea here is that we're retrieving rows from a database. If you've never worked with databases before, it might be helpful to think of it as something like Microsoft Excel, where you have actual rows and columns. And we're going to be pulling back every row where a value in a certain column matches what we've asked for. That's the SQL select statement. We also have insert, and that's going to be how we create that information to begin with. It has a different format. It takes arguments and values in a way that's very similar to what we did with our PHP functions earlier. We say insert into, and then whatever our table name is, and then column 1, column 2, column 3 might be something like first name, last name, city, and then the values, which might be Kevin Skoglund, New York. And the values are the arguments that need to match up. So it's almost like our key value pairs that we were working with. We always want to send it the same number of values in the same order as we specified the columns, just like we did with arguments. Then we have the SQL update command. And that is update the table, set the value of column 1 equal to some text. So again, that's the same thing as having our key value pair when we were doing our assignments earlier, and it's going to have quotes around it because it's a string, where ID equals 1, because we don't want to set all of the column 1s to the new text. Instead, we only want to do it to a certain record, and we need to give MySQL a way to identify which record we want to update. And we do that with the ID equals. So it now knows, here's the command that you need to do on this record. Finally, we have delete, which is very simple. We actually don't care about what the column names are or what values are stored there. All we want to do is delete it from this table where ID equals 1 or 2 or 3. We want to tell it which record should be deleted. So we specified a table, specified a row, and we get rid of it. So those are the basic SQL commands. Let's go ahead in the next movie and launch MySQL and start working with a few of these to see how the syntax actually works in practice.